All right. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Twitch. Happy Saturday. That's the lovely Anne Marie. Thank you for tuning in and joining us. As always, if you've got any questions or comments, just drop them in the chat and hopefully we'll see them. Also, in the description for the YouTube video is some links to Anne Marie's website and also her YouTube, and then there are some links to some of the music that I've done. So, having said that, let's jump off today. As I was kind of going throughout the week, I came across a quote that I liked, and I thought I'd share it with you. And the quote is, "When individuals join in a cooperative venture, the power generated far exceeds what they could have accomplished acting individually." And that's by the one and only Buckminster Fuller, who is kind of a interesting character. I think he's probably most well known for designing they're called geodesic domes. And if anybody has seen Epcot Center at Disney World in Orlando, Florida, that's an example of one of these domes. Anyways, so I'll read that quote again. "When individuals join in a cooperative venture, the power generated far exceeds what they could have accomplished acting individually." And at first, kind of listen, this may sound like, yeah, we know that, right? There's obviously many benefits to being part of a group. There's strength in numbers. Being in a group teaches us to show up. It teaches us to show up for other people. Sometimes it's difficult for us to show up to ourselves. So it teaches us to show up for other people. And then by learning that is something that is expected of us, it teaches us how to show up for ourselves. It relieves some of the workload. Many hands make the workload lighter. And there's social benefits to it as well. We're obviously social animals, which probably goes back to us surviving as a species. We needed to come together and into groups or into tribes, and that's how we survived as humans. So let me ask you, do you have anything to say so far?
No, so far I'm agreeing with all the points that you're making. I think, yeah.
Okay. So I always try to look through these quotes, use a artistic lens to look through and into these quotes. So, if you're I was a musician and I played in a lot of bands, and it was a really satisfying experience and feeling to be able to play and participate with a group, whether it was just like a rock band or like in a symphony orchestra, whatever it may be. It's always nice to be a part of something. It feels good to be needed. It feels good to be wanted. It feels good to have a role to play, but then I was also thinking, what about if the art that you do is solitary? Like right now, I'm doing a lot of computer music, right? I'm doing a lot of my own original music. And, there's plenty of examples. A writer, a painter, right? It's like, well, how can you have a cooperative venture if you're like a singular artist? And I thought, well, if you're a painter, you could form a collective with other painters. I think that's definitely something that's been done a lot in the past. Maybe some schools of thought have like some new ideas, and so they band together because strength in numbers, right? And so then they will put on a show with maybe one of their own. Each person gets to, pick a piece that's represented in this show of like new works or whatever. So that's a way that you could join a collective if you're a solitary artist. Another thing is if you again, going with the painter example, go meet gallery owners or other people who are interested in art. It can be kind of stretched out of, I'm a painter, so I need to work with other painters kind of a thing. It's just like, who else could you meet that you could collaborate on it, essentially? Maybe go meet some musicians who might need artwork done for their album cover, or go meet a writer who might need illustrations for their book. Maybe it's a children's book. Go meet a filmmaker. They need ideas sketched out and drawn out. Go meet an architect. There are so many people outside of our unique individual discipline that we can connect and cooperate with. And I think that I have forgotten about that in the past, and I think that's really important to remember, is that your collaboration doesn't need to be with someone who's doing what you're doing. It can be someone who's sympathetic with what you're doing, but is experiencing their art in a different way. You have any thoughts on that?
Well, when you were talking about, because I'm from the visual arts kind of area of arts, right?
Right.
And when you were talking about joining a collective of painters, so you don't necessarily have to be alone in that process, I thought that was an interesting point that you made, but I don't know if I didn't quite understand or if I kind of just deviated from the joining of the collective with regards to painting. Are we sharing our paintings, or are we collaborating on works together where we go back to our individual studios and work on it? Or are we just talking about painting in this collective? I guess that's where I was trying to understand. And also, because to me, there are certain aspects of art that are very individualistic, even as far as to say that and I think I've said this before, the artist is going to have a different interpretation of the art. The person viewing the art is going to have a different experience. So that makes it a very individual thing. And the collective, to me, in that instance, is just people creating art and then sharing it. And then I just thought about, if I see myself just as a lone individual painting, then where does the collective aspect come in? And I'm guessing for me, the collective aspect would come in understanding that even though I'm in the studio painting this alone, the collaboration is probably extended to a place where the paints that I use were created by someone through collaboration. So the materials I use are like the collective collaboration to me. And maybe from a commercial perspective, somebody opens up a hotel and they put my art in a room. That is a collaboration. Because sometimes, I'm into tarot and stuff like that. If you're not into it, that's okay. But I've seen a lot of decks with artists who have collaborated to produce tarot decks, and they are not cohesive. They're just like random images of interpretations of what the artist thinks the meaning of the card is. And it's really hard. I have not yet seen a collaborative artistic deck where it's been cohesive through the deck with regards to the foundation of the tarot. So that is one way. Sometimes I don't know if being part of a collaboration or a collective works, but I do agree that we all need each other and we all need to work together, and that does help progress things.
Yeah. Do you think that those collaborations didn't work because it was just like oil and water, or like they didn't spend enough time on it blending it, or did you even care to think other than this doesn't work for me?
I think it's just because tarot can be such an individualistic process. When you give someone a specific, when you give someone, say, I want you to draw, for example, what you believe the essence of the magician is, which is the first card of the deck, right? Everybody has a different perspective of what a magician could be, right?
Okay.
A magician could come out to be a trickster. A magician could be a scientist. A magician can be someone who is a court jester that makes you laugh. So when you're having these different, you don't know what the person perceives being a magician is. And then, so it doesn't work. I haven't seen one that works where you have a storyline where it's like, oh, I can understand where the perspective of this deck is coming. It's very individualistic. And it's fine if you're okay with that. Like the traditional decks that work, there is a process and you can see the artist process throughout, and it's cohesive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it kind of makes me think of like if somebody's telling a story and the first chapter doesn't really relate to the second chapter, which doesn't relate to the third chapter, which doesn't relate to the rest of the chapters.
Yeah, that's how I've interpreted some of the collaborative artistic decks. And then sometimes it's not the artist's fault because they're not even into tarot. They're just asked to do an exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they are, but it's never cohesive. The chapters are kind of all over the place and the storyline isn't really consistent, right?
Okay.
And that's okay too, because, like I said, the individual is going to experience it differently as well as the artist.
Okay. Fair enough. You kind of hit on a point that I was thinking about too, which was that if you sell a painting to someone who puts it up in their hotel room, then you've kind of you've kind of participated in this artist audience collaboration. And I think that that's a really important collaboration that we may not think about too often. It's let's say we go to hear some live music. The artist, the musician, they're exploring ideas, right? And we can either support them or reject these ideas in real time, and it's happening very, very, very in our face, right? There's no filters there. Whereas if you're a painter and somebody buys your work, maybe you assume that they automatically like it, and that's great. But it's almost like sometimes the artist is giving the audience like a new way for the audience to express themselves. It's like the artist is like, here's some things that I've learned about humans, and let me share them with them. Let me share them with you. And if you resonate with this, then maybe you can adapt this. And believe it or not, it really made me think a lot about this thing that Kanye West said when he was like, if you're a fan of Kanye West, it just means that you're a fan of yourself. And I was like, wow, that's really pretty cool. Because it's like, it's beyond him. It's bigger than all of us. And it's kind of like an energy that we're all participating in and that we're all celebrating. And I really like that idea of just like celebrating something bigger than a person, you know. And then when I'll stop talking here in a second. But then as I was thinking about that, I used to have a hard time celebrating people and their ideas. Like me personally, I used to have a hard time with that. And I realized that is because I didn't know what I was trying to do, and I didn't know who I was. And so I saw someone else's success and I was like, ooh, I want that. But I didn't realize that their success came from within them and that they were sharing it. I thought it was just something outside that I could grab and say, okay, now it's mine. But I think it's more like it's just them being a very evolved version of themselves and being able to share their ideas, their thoughts. So it's kind of like the stay in your lane thing. I was getting in other people's lanes. I was all over the road trying to get in other people's lanes, trying to get their success. And now it's just like, oh, shoot. The only way I'm going to get success that means anything is if I'm in my own lane. And recognizing that I needed to be in my own lane to achieve my success made me realize that other people's successes they had nothing to do with me. So I needed to celebrate them. They weren't coming at my expense. Someone else's success was not coming at my expense.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Like you can look at someone else's success as maybe a roadmap or as like something that might inspire you, but to be jealous of it or to think that because they are successful, you're not. Right. I think it's a really mind jerk that you don't want to do to yourself because you'll never do anything. No. And that's exactly how I used to be, because I would be like, why do they have this? Why do they have that? I want this. I want that. And it's just like, well, they stayed in their lane. They didn't steal it from someone else, you know? Yeah, for sure. But when you said about Kanye's quote, right, I laughed in my head because I think Kanye thinks he's he has the omnipresence or omnipotent. What is it? That word?
Omnipotent.
He's omnipotent, so he's within all of us. So he's reflected within all of us.
I don't know if he thinks that he's reflected within all of us or what's in him is in all of us.
Yeah, I'm just being funny. I'm just poking fun at Kanye.
No, it's
Kanye's
funny.
Got an ego.
It's funny because of the source of who it's coming from.
You know, Kanye's got an ego, which is fine. Like, I'm not someone who's like, smash your ego, tear it to pieces. No, everything has its place in life. I don't think God or universe creates anything without purpose. At least that's the way I view life. So whatever it is, you utilize it to your best advantage without, I guess, doing harm to yourself and others.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. You got anything else you want to share?
No, not really. All right. But that Kanye quote is gonna. So every time I see Kanye now, I'm gonna see myself.
It's really interesting. I find him to be very fascinating.
Yes, he finds himself to be very fascinating.
Well, right. But you got to imagine.
And I'm not saying that to say that there's something wrong with that.
No, of course not. But I mean, could you imagine if someone didn't find themselves fascinating to some degree? I mean, it's almost like if you don't, it's almost like you can explore the world through yourself. So if you're not finding something fascinating within yourself, it's almost just like, why not? There's nothing fascinating to you about the world?
That's a good point. But that's also borderline narcissistic. So right. There's find balance.
Right. No. Yeah. No, I agree with that. And you know what? I think a lot of people are narcissistic because that gets back to survival. We've had to be narcissistic to survive. And you got to figure out when it's harmful and when it's okay. You know, is it narcissistic to say, I'm not going to give this person my money because I need to spend it on the food that I'm going to eat today? No, it's not. But is it narcissistic to say that my food is better than everyone else's food? Probably.
Unless you're a top chef.
Unless you're a top chef. Oh, man. And in which case, then you would want to share your art, your creation, with your audience. You would want to collaborate with your audience and say, hey, I figured something out with this, what you can do with this food. And you would then share it with your audience. And that'd be a cooperative venture.
Yes. And then you would also want to teach them how to eat it.
Teach them how to eat it?
Oh, that's an inside joke that I'm thinking of that I can't share with the audience.
Okay. Oh, you see, who's giving me challenges that their food is better than mine? I mean, come on, man. Or woman. Have you had my cooking? I don't know.
I think they have. That's why they can make that statement.
Well, that's just downright rude then.
Can't be rude if you're telling the truth.
I welcome you into my to my YouTube channel, and you come in and start saying your food is better than mine.
Now it reminds me of that rap song.
Which one?
With that lady. Something brings all the girls to the yard.
Oh, my milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. That's the craziest thing, because that was stuck in my head about 2 hours ago.
That's what it reminds me.
I was singing that. Like 2 hours ago I was singing that. And I was like, why is this in my head?
Well, as we learned this week, Shake Shack's milkshake is better than...
Shake Shack's milkshakes brings all the boys to the yard.
Sorry, folks. Inside joke.
We had a bunch of Shake Shack this week. After living in New York for 20 plus years, and never eating Shake Shack, we had it a bunch this week. I don't know, just how it is sometimes. All right. Maria, good to see you.
Likewise.
And Concrete, we're going to have a cook-off sometime, so do some studying. Thanks for tuning in. There's going to be some videos to check out, past videos. Put a link here. Put a subscribe here. I did a meditation music video.
You did?
Or a breathing one. The 478 breathing one. I feel like it's not gotten as much love as it deserves.
Shake Shack sucks. Oh man, we're gonna get into the Shake Shack debate.
No, we're not. I'm shutting that down right now.
All right. Let's shut it down. But what's better than Shake Shack? If you're like, I'm curious to know what you think is better than Shake Shack, because I don't eat fast food like that. But when I have in the past, I know Mickey D's is not better than Shake Shack. So let's see. Unless you're going to some real top chef restaurants where you're having a shake and a burger.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm gonna shut that down. I don't want to get into a
which is better, Shake Shack? Well, and then in New York, there's not a lot of fast like food burger joints that like we could compare to.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just not even gonna get into that. There you go.
Tortilla's better.
There you go. There you go, Jake. There you go, man. Come stop by for a tortilla sometime. Come stop by. All right. But I really got to let this go.
All right.
But thanks for tuning in. Check out the 478 breathing exercise video. Check out last week's video. Like, share, subscribe, comment. If there's any quote you want us to talk about next week, drop it in the comment section, and we'll go from there. Maria and Jake, I hope you have fantastic days. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Thanks, bro. Miss you too. Talk to you guys next week.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Take care.